On the video link is the retired colonel professor of practice at the University of Jyväskylä, Martti J. Kari.
Huomenta.
Good morning. Good morning. The situation in southeast Kherson is interesting. The Russians are thought to retreat to the eastern coast of Dnipro River. On the other hand, Ukraine has announced that this might be a trap by the Russians. On Friday, Putin commented that civilians should evacuate from Kherson. How do you analyze the situation in Kherson? There are two types of information about Kherson currently. The first information is that the Russians are preparing to evacuate Kherson. They are building a defense line to the eastern coast of Dnipro. On the other hand, there is information that the Russians are preparing to blow up Novakakhovka Dam. These two information contradict each other. If the Russians blow up Novakakhovka Dam, a large part of the defense lines that the Russians are building to the eastern coast of Dnipro would be left under the flood. This is very contradictory information. We know that 80% of the population has been evacuated from Kherson. We also know that an evacuation order has been issued to the small villages in the area. On the 10th or 11th day, the majority of the population must be evacuated. Something is happening there. Ukraine is pressing on. The Russians will have to give up the Kherson area. The Kherson area has been liberated by the end of November. The situation will be that the Ukrainians will take control of the western coast of Dnipro and the Russians will take control of the eastern coast of Dnipro in the end of November. After that, the situation will be frozen. The crossing of the river is extremely challenging as an operational event. If you think that Ukraine will get the city of Kherson back, how do you think the Russians will give up the battles and retreat to the other side of the river? They will surely fight there, that is obvious. But Ukraine will be able to force them to the eastern side of the river. The clear sign is that the Russians are preparing to retreat from Kherson. If the Russians retreat from Kherson, what does this mean for the war? It means that the war in the area of Kherson, Mykolaiv and the Crimean ports will stop at the Dnipro River. It is extremely challenging for the Ukrainians to cross the river. It is easy for the Russians to defend the river. It also means that the center of gravity of the war will shift to the operational direction of Kharkiv. The Ukrainians are trying to gain more space in the direction of the imaginary republics, so that in the spring they can launch an attack from the north. From the direction of Mariupol and Melitopol. They are trying to cut off the land connection from the imaginary republics to the Crimean direction. When you talk about the imaginary republics, Kherson is one of those areas that Russia declared its own earlier. But now Russia is preparing to give them up. When I say the imaginary republics, I mean the original Donetsk-Luhansk imaginary republics. Russian officials claim that the Kakhovka water power plant dam had been damaged yesterday in a rocket strike by Ukrainian troops. They also say that the strike did not cause a critical damage to the dam. How do you feel about this? I don't understand why the Ukrainians would shoot the dam. This is one of those typical Russian truths and lies that can be skillfully used as a mean to wage war. They lie that there are biolaboratories there that produce those mosquitoes that can affect the Russians, or that Ukraine is preparing a dirty bomb, or that Ukraine shoots Novakakhovka Dam. It's a very typical Russian way to manufacture and broadcast lies. They are probing who believes which lie and what kind of lies are getting traction. I don't think Ukraine has any reason to shoot the dam. And on the other hand, if you've used the HIMARS is so accurate that it hits where it hits. So, it was not shot by accident nor on purpose. The dam has been feared to be exploded by Russia. What would be the consequences? The water would rise in the Kherson area by about 5 meters, 16 feet. It would take 3 days. In 3 days, the Kherson Valley would be filled so that it would turn into a lake about 5 kilometers, 3 miles wide, which would prevent Ukraine from crossing the river. But, as I said, the Russians are building defense line for the areas that would be flooded if the dam exploded. There are these two contradicting information. In any case, it would be a disaster. The Ukrainians know that the explosion of the dam is one possibility. So they will not send troops to the city of Kherson until they confirm the safety of the dam. They will not go anywhere. The Russians have bombed Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Millions of Ukrainians are currently without electricity. Does the Russian attack on the energy infrastructure mean that the Russians are weak and they need to do something else? Or is it a very clever strategy to weaken the Ukrainian power? The Russians are weak. The Russians are using the United States' developed layered circular model of the Gulf War. First, they tried to kill a leadership in early February. At the end of February, the Russian troops tried to destroy Zelensky. Then they attacked the Ukrainians with tanks, but they failed. After that, they tried to influence the armed forces. They challenged the Ukrainian armed forces to the attrition war in the eastern part of Kharkiv. When that failed, they started to destroy the infrastructure and the processes. They wanted to influence the morale of the population. Through the morale of the population and destroy the infrastructure. This follows the United States' Desert Storm doctrine from the Gulf War. A brief picture of the war at the moment. Is Ukraine still on top of the situation? Yes, it is. Ukraine will reach the river Dnipro by the end of November. And the city of Kharkiv is free. In the eastern part of Kharkiv, one of the small towns is being fought. But I suspect that the battle in Severodonetsk will begin by the end of November. Ukraine has enough space to launch an operation from the north towards Melitopol and Mariupol when spring comes. Thank you, Martti J. Kari.